And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of MLS History Retold on the Designated Players and MLS podcast. This week, we're going back to some wild moments in MLS history, starting off by reliving the time the Columbus Crew had to chuck Eddie Gaven in goal in the middle of a match to end the season. Then we'll head to the 2010 MLS Cup playoffs and live the thrilling semifinal between Colorado Rapids and the San Jose Earthquakes. I'm Andrew, that's Connor, and this is MLS History Retold. Some of that phrasing may be exaggeration, but I am not held liable for that. I'm sorry. Connor, how you doing?
Listen, I'm not going to spoil my story at all, but we might be doubling up on a little bit of Eddie Gavin this episode. So shout out,
Oh,
shout out Eddie Gavin. I know you're listening. You're a friend of the pod.
man, we
You know,
got to
we
get him
we we
on.
we call him Ed
Well, you know what was
because
so
we're
funny is
boys.
I was thinking about it before. Mike McGee was tweeting out something the other day. He was like, "Man, life's been pretty boring lately. Anybody want to bet Chicago Fire or like LA Galaxy games? I'll do like anything that's like not crazy." I'm like, "Hey, if Chicago Fire beat Atlanta, you got to come on a pod." I'll
That's a
reach
good
out
way
to
to
him
get him
one.
on.
I'll reach out to him one day and see if we can get him on because he's got Red Bull ties that we could latch on to.
I bet he's in the stories a few times.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And he's got LA, he's got Chicago, he's got a good little run. So, and he's, if I remember correctly, he's an MLS MVP, which is pretty neat.
Yeah,
So,
neato.
yeah, you know what else is neat? This scarf wall behind me. But I mean, everybody can see my scarves. I want to know what you're rocking today.
I finally have a Colorado scarf, so I will be rocking my Colorado scarf. Look at this design. This is
I love
beautiful.
that. I
It
love
is
everything
so
about
good.
that.
It is a great Colorado Rapids scarf.
That's badass. I like that. Um, we're back to the crew, which means we're back to the crew scarf. We've seen. I
Is
feel
it?
like
Yeah, but it's
crew.
got the old logo, so it's cool.
It does. It is. It's pretty neat. Let's just jump into it, right? There's no need to waffle, right? So last week we talked about the rarity of goalkeepers getting that feeling of seeing the ball that they struck hit the back of the net. One thing is equally as rare, if not more so, is seeing the field player experiencing the thrills of hopping between the sticks and doing everything they can to prevent the opposition from scoring a goal themselves. After Will Hesmer scored a goal in the final seconds of the Crew's penultimate match against Toronto FC in 2010, the soccer gods were still not pleased. As such, they wielded their powers to ensure the maximum chaos to end the Crew's season, leading to Eddie Gavin's Crew debut in goal in the final match of the season against the Philadelphia Union. Now, you might have noticed that I said Crew debut. That's because technically, this is not Eddie Gavin's first time in goal. Longtime listeners will remember the story of cheating Bob Bradley in the Metro Stars' fourth substitution way back in the MLS 1.0 days. In that moment, Eddie Gavin was only in on a technicality where you were allowed to make a fourth substitution in extra time only if it was the goalkeeper. So he went in as a goalkeeper just to get subbed out on the very first ball out of play to allow Tim Howard to go back in goal while Eddie Gavin resumed his normal field player duties and scored the game winning goal. However, in this moment, he would not get the chance to do that. So let's start at the beginning. On October 24th, 2010, the Columbus Crew were wrapping up their season against the newly formed Philadelphia Union. In this match, while playoff seeding had already been decided, the race for the top of the East was on. If Crew picked up 3 points and Red Bull dropped any of them, they would take home the number one spot and theoretically an easier path to MLS Cup. As a result of these stakes, Crew manager Robert Warzyka rolled out a lineup as strong as you like, with the likes of Will Hesmer, Chad Marshall, Frankie Hajuk, Brian Carroll, Guillermo Barros and Eddie Gavin in the starting 11. This game was a top versus bottom matchup in every sense of the word, and it showed from the offing, with Eddie Gavin thoroughly in the mix. Guillermo Barros would get his first goal off of a penalty in the 15th minute that Eddie Gavin drew just inside the edge of the box, or just outside it if you ask the Philadelphia Union players. But, as they say, no VAR, no party, we went to the spot. He slotted it home, cool, calm, and collected, and took the 1-0 lead. While that would not technically count as an Eddie Gavin assist, he got it back just before halftime as he slipped a ball behind the Philly back line, sending Emilio Renteria in on goal. He blasted the ball past a charging Chris Seitz to double the Crew's lead before running over the sideline, removing his boot, and pretending to take a phone call before hanging it up on the flag. Some say the celebration was more entertaining than the goal itself, but I guess it depends on who you ask. Andres Mendoza would add an insurance goal to make it 3-0 with 10 minutes to play, and then things would get interesting. Because in the 85th minute, a ball would be floated into the box, which Will Hesmer would attempt to claim in a challenge with Union center back Danny Califf. Califf would go in a bit stronger than you'd like and left Hesmer in a heap. After the training staff checked on him, it was determined that Hesmer had broken his collarbone and, of course, would not be able to continue. The problem was, the crew had used their last sub 5 minutes earlier to remove Andy Iro and enter Eric Brunner. With no subs remaining and a goalkeeper who could not continue, someone needed to play hero. Cue up Eddie Gaven once again, assuming the role of stand-in goalkeeper. And a sight that made the stadium almost burst into laughter. As teammate Jason Gary mentioned, the whole situation was a hilarious sight. The gloves were too big for his hands, the shirt was down to his knees. It was unbelievable. It couldn't have been any better. He added that it actually could have been better if he started screaming at his back line like the other goalkeepers did after conceding, which happened on the very first kick of the ball after the shot after Eddie Gavin came in, because a free kick from Union legend Sebastian Letou snuck by him. Now, Eddie Gavin was quick to point out that he actually didn't get a chance to warm up to play goalkeeper, and if he had, he definitely has a clean sheet right now to his name. Gavin would go on to make 2 saves in the last few minutes of that match, including a diving save down to his right-hand side. He would state that he made the save look a little bit harder than it was, but that's just his welcome to the GK Union, because as any goalkeeper knows, if you can make yourself look good making an easy save, you do it. Hesmer had played every minute in goal for the crew until he got hurt, but since he never technically was subbed off, he would finish the game with 2,700 minutes on his resume, a goal scored, and technically 5 minutes as a field player in the 2010 season. Talk about a stat line. Eddie Gavin would give his gloves back for the next match, as crew would opt for Andy Grenenbaum in goal instead. His time between the sticks was short-lived, and he and the fans will always be able to look back and say, I remember when. However, without Hesmer, the crew would go on to lose in the first round of the 2010 playoffs to the Colorado Rapids, who had themselves a decent run in the 2010 playoffs, one we might talk about later. Are you feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges? At Salt River Therapy, their therapists provide you with a safe, affirming space to heal and to grow.
Salt River Therapy's boutique practice offers compassionate, quality therapy for individuals and couples, both in person in Brooklyn and virtually throughout New York and New Jersey. They specialize in anxiety, grief, low self-esteem, identity issues, trauma, relationship challenges, and more. They accept most New York Aetna plans and have sliding scale rates available.
Are you ready to prioritize your mental health? Schedule a free consultation today at saltrivertherapy.com. That's SaltriverTherapy.com, and let them support you on your journey to better well-being.
You're stepping on my toes. What's this?
Step, step,
What's
step,
this?
step, step, step.
You can't take things away. Like you just spoiled my story. How are we supposed to know how the Colorado Rapids get to the semifinals?
What do you mean? I don't know how they got there. Tell me all about it.
Well, lucky for you, I did my homework, and so I can tell you all about it. What I can also tell you about is how we've talked a ton about this 2010 season already, or at least it's felt like it, to be honest. But now you get to see how the different multiverses get to blend together now. Because this story begins with the final game of the season. And we'll pick up where we last left off, which was Birahim Diop scoring a hat trick on the final day of the season. For those that listened to the last history episode, firstly, thank you. Secondly, you'll know that Diop scored a hat trick against San Jose on the last game of the 2010 regular season to beat them 4-1. Meanwhile, Colorado was picking up a draw against RSL in quite frankly a game that they should have won. They conceded 2 goals in stoppage time, so big ups Colorado. But that's neither here nor there. While they were already clinched for the playoffs, what this result meant was that they would be matched up with the Columbus Crew instead of the New York Red Bulls, which appeared to be a better matchup for them considering they were winless in 3 matches against Red Bull. You might be asking yourself, how does a team in the Western Conference get matched up with a team in the Eastern Conference? That's a great question for Google, because I'm not going to begin to try to understand and explain that mess. Anyway, the format of the playoffs is home and away for the first leg, sorry, for the first round, and then one-off games the rest of the playoffs. The first game of the series saw Colorado at Dick's Sporting Goods Park taking on the Columbus Crew, as was spoiled by Andrew. Big important names on both sides, seeing the Crew with Eddie Gaven, GBS, and Chad Marshall, while Colorado fielded Connor Casey, Omar Cummings, and Pablo Mastroeni. This game was not an exciting one for the box score, but was a tactical important one for Colorado. In the home and away affair, it was really important to get the win at home, and the aforementioned Mastroeni would be the one to give them that win, as in the 23rd minute, he would find the end of an Omar Cummings cross to beat Andy Grunenbaum in goal and give the Rapids a 1-0 lead going into Columbus. A win was not needed, nor did it need to be pretty. Whatever was needed to get them to the next round was all that was left to do for this first round of the playoffs. Well, they didn't exactly get off to the best of starts with Eddie Gaven, yes, that Eddie Gaven, grabbing the first for Columbus in the 22nd minute to give Columbus a 1-0 lead in the game and make it level in the aggregate. To make matters worse, Columbus then grabbed a second in the 70th minute to not only double the lead in the game, but give them an aggregate advantage as well. As of right now, Colorado was going home if they could not find another goal. But we wouldn't be talking about a semifinals matchup if they lost in the quarters, now would we? Colorado legend Connor Casey steps in the 84th minute to find the end of a cross from Omar Cummings to once again level the aggregate. Tied after the final whistle meant we were off to penalties. Grunnebaum versus Matt Pickens for Colorado. I'll skip the back and forth considering all first four players for both sides scored. But next for Columbus was Brian Carroll, who stepped up and had our first miss of the penalty shootout, meaning the ball was in Colorado's court to send Columbus packing. Up stepped Jamie Smith, who would make no mistake with his penalty to send Columbus into the next round of the playoffs. On the other end of this part of the bracket saw the Eastern Conference 1 seed New York Red Bulls pull That's So Metro moment number infinity as they won the away game, only to lose the home game 3-1 and see them get knocked out in the first round, meaning we are seeing the two lowest seeds face off in the semifinals. Remember that point they got at the end of the regular season? How big of a point would that turn out to be, as that extra point meant they got to host this single elimination semifinal game? While San Jose did not have a good season, this was not a team that could be slept on, especially considering that they had the Golden Boot winner in their side. This one is an insanely important game for the club and the fans when you consider that they hadn't been to an MLS Cup Final since 1997, over a decade. It would take some time for the first goal to come, but luckily for the fans in attendance, the goal would come for Colorado and from quite an unexpected goal scorer. When you have guys like the Connor Casey and Omar Cummings in the team, you don't expect the big time goal to come from your right back, Kozuki Kimura, who has only scored twice in his professional career to this point. But nonetheless, it was Kimura that scored and gave Colorado a super important lead, a lead that they would be able to hold on to, meaning that not only did they shut down the most prolific goal scorer that season, but also get the win and make it to MLS Cup Final for the first time in 13 years. But tune in next time, though, because this story is not quite over yet, and we will be covering the MLS Cup Final in next week's history episode. So more Colorado coming up.
Kosuke Kimura, Red Bull legend.
I remember looking up his career history. Was he
Yes, he
Red
was.
Bull after Colorado?
Yes, he was. Yep.
I can't believe how like I had never heard of him before, but he played for Colorado like a long time,
Yeah, he
like
was a
over
part of
100
he
appearances.
was a big part of that team that we are going to cover. No, but it was I remember him coming in. I'm like, who is this guy? And he was solid for us. I was real happy with having him on the team. And then, because he was there with the Thierry Henrys of the world and stuff. And you're like, okay, well, he's not Thierry Henry. Silly little 12-year-old me looking at like, why is nobody as good as Thierry Henry? Not recognizing where we're at. But no, man, it's like I said, I don't want to say I stepped on your toes. I led into it, right? How did we get to how did Andy Greenbaum get in goal? Right? Because Will Hesmer is their guy. Oh, I just told you. We work off each other. I don't step on your toes.
All right. I'll hand it to you. Fine.
There we
It
go.
was good to lead into one story into the other.
That's right.
That's
That's
what I
right. Well,
mean. It's like the Marvel universe is coming together, and next week's episode is Endgame for the 2010 season.
oh, see, that's why we bring you on for that nerd stuff I don't know anything about. I love it.
Yeah,
Heck
okay.
yeah.
Just
Well,
don't
if
pretend
you
like you do. You talk about your 2012 love for the New York Red Bulls comparing everybody to Thierry Henry. Who's the loser? Come on now.
Well, if you enjoy the way that we lead each other into our stories and all of Connor's weird superhero references, make sure you give us a follow and share with all your friends. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. When the next MLS history goes live, like we mentioned, we're going to talk about all 2010 MLS Cup, but we're also going to talk about how we got there with the 2010 Conference Final versus the LA Galaxy. Once again, leading you into your story because that's what we do. And make sure you follow us wherever you get your social media so we can interact with you. It's Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Just search the Designated Players. You'll find us. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS Podcast. See ya.